Riz and the Dog, live at 5 for Father's Day. It's the Yankee Tank, the Mets Magic, the Surging Braves and Phillies, and the Fallen Angels. Diamond Diehards is on! Joe Rizzo here bringing you baseball along with the dog, Jeff Healy. We're blitzing you with content this week. So basically what happened was a couple of weekends ago, the dog popped over to Casa Riz and we went into Studio RB, did our second in-person show. Studio RC is almost prepared, so we're going to try to do some more of those over the summer. And we're getting very close, but in the meantime, we are back to the live stream and we're back to talking baseball with you, and we're glad to be doing it. If you haven't checked out what's been going on the last couple of days, I gave the dog a couple of days off, and I did a Stanley Cup Finals preview, which we're mere hours away from the puck drop of Game 1, depending on if you're watching this live or if you're checking it out at a later time. It's just after 5 Eastern on June 15th. Happy birthday to my brother Frank Rizzo, and there's other birthdays that would have been shared today, sweet or bittersweet, and anniversaries. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. But yeah, so we did the Stanley Cup Finals preview, and then that's with Jess Myers, great hockey writer who's been a longtime friend. And Mike Applebaum joined us for our third golf special events show, and we previewed the U.S. Open, which gets underway Thursday at the Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts. So if you subscribe, you'll see those already in your archive, and if not, then we want you to hit the subscribe or follow buttons on your favorite podcast app, whether it's Apple Podcast or Spotify or Amazon, TalkShoe, whatever it is, YouTube or the Facebook group. All of it will be there for you to consume, whether you like to watch it or listen to it or a combination of both. We need your support and we want your support. So hit those subscribe and alert buttons and follow Diamond Diehards that way and interact with us as you see fit. The other way to interact with us is all the way on social media at Diamond Diehards, everywhere you could think of. And you could follow the dog on Twitter at Jeff Healy8. That's the number 8. And at Diamond Diehards is where I'm usually tweeting from. I have another Twitter, but that's the one I'm working on mostly with these days. So, as we are back to the regular format, we usually kick it off with Veteran of the Day and end it with Die Hard Dads, and then you get all the juicy baseball stuff in between. So I will bring in my esteemed colleague, the dog, Jeff Healy, for Veteran of the Day. Dog, welcome back.
All right, thanks, Riz. Good to be back as always. So this one we're going to try and keep it topical as we try and keep subset going with our combination of baseball and life. So this one, our Veteran of the Day is going to be Major General Tammy Smith. Now, Tammy Smith was the first officer who came out as gay to reach the rank of general in the United States military in 2012. So General Smith was commissioned out of ROTC, University of Oregon, way back in 1986 as in the Quartermaster Corps. She went up through the ranks over the years, finally finishing off as Assistant Deputy Chief of Staff for Mobilization and Reserve Affairs. She was also Deputy Commanding General of Sustainment, which is logistics, for the 8th United States Army. So she was the first female general officer as well to serve in the 8th Army Headquarters level position as well. She served tours as Commanding General in 98th Training Division and also served overseas for a year in the war in Afghanistan. So again, she made Brigadier General in 2012 and then moved up to a Major General in 2016 and just retired from the Army last year, April 30th, 2021. So again, in honor of Pride Month, our Veteran of the Day is Major General Tammy S. Smith, United States Army.
All right. Always keeping it topical is the dog. I'm putting the tweet out there for everybody to join in. Tell a friend to tell a friend, right?
There you go.
And we're monitoring the chat as well.
I was a little rusty looking for that 2012 date. So apologize for locking up on the front there.
All right, so things we're going to cover, we did it all in the opening there. The Yankee tank marching on, Mets Magic, surging Braves and Phillies, and the Fallen Angels before we do the Father's Day stuff for die-hard dads. Dawg, amazing stats coming out of the Bronx here, really. It's like I can't even believe it myself at this point. The Yankees are 45 and 16 pending their game June 15th here with Tampa Bay. The Rays are having a very nice season at 35 and 26. The Blue Jays are up to 36 and 25. The Red Sox have come out of the doldrums and they are 33 and 29. And they are 9, 10, and 12 and a half games out of first place. It's unbelievable. I know how the Yankees are doing it, but I don't know how they're doing it. If you want me to sound like our pal Monty, I know how they're doing it, but I don't know how they're doing it.
As we would steal from a Stratline, right? You guys have rolled on your card for like the last 6 weeks.
Or have they? I mean, it's not like a lot of these guys are great. I mean, if you roll on Joey Gallo's Strat card, you're not really doing much, right? Dawg, it's been the defense.
It's the pitching, right?
It's the pitching. I think it's the defense.
True. And defense too, right? Defense helps supports it as well, right?
Well, I'm going to tell you why I think it's that. It's okay. You go from 24th in the league to second in the league in defense, and that's just on, the sort of general metrics. But that's a massive improvement. I mean, you go from being one of the worst defensive teams in the league to one of, if not the best, and all of a sudden it changes your pitcher confidence. But the other place where it really changes your pitcher confidence is behind the plate, right? I mean, they moved on from Gary Sanchez, and they, have gotten, no offensive production out of Kyle Higashioka, which is really kind of a huge surprise. I mean, that it's sort of a huge surprise that he's been this bad. Right? Like offensively, that and he had such a great spring training. And, that's all well and good. We know he's good defensively. I don't think we expected 2 home runs, both of them in one game, 7 RBIs, and a 172 batting average through 35 games. Right? I don't think the Yankees really expected that. But the guy who's really helped them is Jose Trevino. And it was basically what looked like it was kind of a throwaway kind of nothing trade, and he was going to be like their third or fourth catcher. And he's, very good defensively. And he's actually played in more games. Higashioka's played in 35, Trevino's played in 40. Higashioka has 93 at-bats, Trevino has 100. But Trevino has 5 homers, 18 RBIs, and is hitting 300 with a 346 on base, a 490 slugging, and an 836 OPS. I mean, and he's gotten clutch hits, and he's taken the fandom of the Yankees, and he's, he and Nestor Cortez are like these beloved Yankees out of nowhere. That's a big help, right? So you have that complete reversal of negativity and expectations from behind the plate removed by Gary Sanchez being traded to Minnesota. And of course, one of the guys that you got, or the guy that you got for him, was Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Again, not a great offensive player in terms of what the production actually is, but just very, very good defensively, right?
Yep.
Does everything that you want him to do on defense and a little bit more. At the bat, 272. 6 batting average, 642 OPS, but phenomenal defense, timely hits, right? Moves runners up, puts the ball in play, 34 strikeouts against almost 200 at bats. I mean, sure, it's not DiMaggio, but he's among the lowest per at bat guys on the team for striking out. Yeah. So you start to get all these little combinations in there, right? Anthony Rizzo, cousin Anthony. okay, he's got the home runs and he's got the ribbies. He's got 15 homers, 41 ribbies, but he's only hitting 221. He gets on base a lot with the walks. His walk rate is solid, but he gets hit by a lot of pitches to add to that. And his OPS is 799, which is not stupendous.
Yeah.
But his defense is ridiculous. I mean, it keys so much of what they're doing. And they're now able to manufacture a run and win a 3-2 game. And like you're confident that they're going to be able to do that in these 1-1 games, these 2-2 games, these 2-1 games. You're confident that they're going to get that extra run to add to a 1-run lead, or they're going to come back and grab that run late, and that they don't have to rely on Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton, or Gallo to run into one, or even Rizzo. Like they'll figure out a way to get those runs in. But Dawg, the other thing, I'll try to tie a bow on it here. I basically at this point I'm dislocating my shoulder, trying to pat myself on the back for just talking up over a year ago Aaron Judge in center field. And now he's basically just become the everyday center fielder. They don't even bother putting Hicks there. They put Hicks in left at the end of the game for defense, and then they move Gallo over to right, and that becomes a really good defensive outfield. And Judge looks like he's played center field his whole life, even though he hasn't played it that much in the majors. It's a totally different world with him there. And the catch that he made on the June 14th game to end it, it's a liner. Okay, it's not the most difficult catch in the world, but it's not easy. And he's just on it, and he gets there, and he catches it with ease, and they end the game. They seal the win over Tampa after Clay Holmes let up a pinch hit single to Brett Phillips with 2 outs, and ran, then with the final out, ran his scoreless inning streak to 29 2/3, which is 1 inning short, Dawg, of the all-time Yankees scoreless inning streak record. Do you know who holds that record of 30.2 consecutive scoreless innings? I would take the obvious answer if I was you.
Ready for it?
No, think one at a time. Innings.
Oh, duh. All right, Mo.
Yeah. However, he shares the record, Dawg. He shares the record.
Kind of that was kind of a bit of an unforced error on Dawg in that one. Oh yeah, the all-time Hall of Famer. Yeah.
But he shares it, Dawg. Do you know who he
Shares it
shares
with-
the record with?
I blew it on Whitey.
That's what she said.
Gossage? I'm gonna keep with the relief thought here.
Wow, he's right there. He's like third. Well, now I guess he's tied for third.
Okay.
You will never, ever, ever get this guy. You probably could have seen it on the Yes broadcast like last night, and you still wouldn't remember it and gotten it.
I'm gonna have to.
And it's a
I'm gonna
guy.
have to ask to phone a friend.
It's a guy who you saw pitch, and I think he might have even at one point like pitched a couple of innings for the Mets. So I'm gonna give it to you. Lee Guterman.
You're right. In a bajillion years, that would have been my guess. Gutter ball was the.
Yes.
Wow.
He and Mariano share the record at the moment, but Clay Holmes is he's banging on the door there. He's right
that's
there.
Hilarious. That's a goodie. Just coming back on, what? It's funny, but we literally, in our, I guess this was like crystal balling. This wasn't like time traveling for us. This was just crystal balling for it. Did we not spend all last year talking about strengthening up the middle? And that was the problem with the Yankees. And lo and behold, they bid it. They took it down. Arguably took it down a little bit in fielding or in hitting for what they thought, primarily with Sanchez. But even at short, right? So you're kind of accepting a little bit less, hoping that you get it, but accepting a little bit less, completely turned around the team, right? So that whole team was not solid up the middle last year, but hit the holy hell out of the ball and couldn't get it done. This is basically inverting that team. The exception of Judge moving over and doing a great job in center, right? So that's sort of worked out well. That was one that, again, you were spot on. But that's it, right? And that completely turned it around on that team. And this, the runs allowed on 180 is just ridiculous. I mean, just how much better that is than the rest of the league. And the fact that, I mean, the Yankees the best run differential, 129, and the fact that the runs allowed is what is making that happen is the truly eye-popping one. Like you sort of readily point out, the offense is more upside, right? I mean, I can see this Yankee team scoring more, right? So like the 129,
Yeah.
that almost might be a little bit low. And boy, oh boy, I mean, if these guys really, I mean, the guys who can hit, live up a little bit more to some of the back of the card, boy, they are rocking and rolling. I mean, the beast of the East, both leagues.
Yeah, the Yankees don't even lead New York in runs scored.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was speaking down. I'm like, that's nuts. I mean, that was one we were saying, right? The number one team in baseball right now is the Yankees. Number two baseball, and number two team in baseball is the Mets.
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
mean, it's pretty good times to be in New York.
I know.
After some lean years.
Yeah,
Particularly on my side.
Our
only on your side. Pretty lean on my side.
well, you've been to the World Series more recently than us.
True.
Right?
True.
2015 as opposed to 2009. Now at the Yankees was a win, and the Mets wasn't. But you still got there. There's something to that, right?
Yep.
So I don't know which would you take? You'd take the win, I guess, right? You take the longer drought to have the win, but either way.
Particularly if it's 09 versus 15, right? So
yeah.
You start going back to 86, it's getting a little in the tooth. Yeah, just a little bit sooner.
And then you're dipping a little bit too far down.
Yeah.
The Yanks, I mean, it's just every stat that you look at,
just every move they make, right? Like
730, 738 winning percentage, 9-1 in their last 10, 5 in a row. They lead the American League in runs scored and fewest runs allowed, and of course, by definition, run difference. They're 27-7 at home, which is the best home record. They're 18-9 on the road, which is the best road record. They're 16-7 against teams above 500, and I'm trying to look if they're the only team that has a winning record in the American League. Okay, there's two other teams in the entire American League that have a winning record versus teams above 500. The Rays are 11-9, and the Astros are 8-7. The Yankees are 16-7, so they've played even more games against teams that are above 500. It's like every single stat it's mesmerizing. It's not mesmerizing, but we're going to get to them now, right? Let's get to the Mets.
By the way, can we talk about Matt Carpenter pulling that guy out of the pile? This was referring to you not rolling on your card.
Yeah.
Matt Carpenter, holy.
He's just, I mean, but that's the kind of season they're having, right?
The guy's got a WAR of .7. He's only played like 10 games. 11 games. 11 games. He's got a WAR of .7.
11 games, 10 runs. He's got 8 hits. He has a single, a double, and 6 home runs.
138 OPS. He's got like a Bonds OPS.
Yeah, he does. He's hitting 286 with a 412 OPS. So he's even added 5 walks against 28 at-bats. So he has 33 plate appearances. I mean, and he struck out 9 times. It's incredible. Even like Donaldson has woken up, and he's been kind of, a guy that has been a lightning rod here with the whole Tim Anderson thing. We could do probably a whole show on Tim Anderson with whatever he's going through too. But, Dawg, Donaldson, I was never really a huge fan of his anyway, but the one thing that surprised me that I didn't expect is he's a lot better defensively than I expected him to be. Like, I thought he was kind of like, somewhere between mediocre and a horror show. And he's, I don't know if he's like Gold Glove. Like he's not Gio Urshela, but he's not that far behind. Like he's a lot better defensively at third. And I know this sounds ridiculous that I'm a baseball guy and I'm talking about a guy who's been, a third baseman his whole career and has an MVP to his name and stuff like that. But, he was playing in Oakland a lot of the times and then bouncing around in Toronto and Minnesota, Atlanta. I just wasn't watching him on a day-to-day basis. And when you do get to see that, you get to get a little bit of a different impression on certain guys. Like Gallo, like he's just the absolute whipping boy over here. But even he, with the season that he's having, is it's probably not as bad as it could even be, believe it or not. He's a lot better defensively. So even though he's just, I don't know how you'd even describe his offense besides awful, but he's just way better defensively than I thought he was. And that helps on this team where, okay, he's drawn 23 walks in 51 games. Not very good when you're hitting 186. He's only driven in 15 runs and he's hit 8 homers, which is in- incredible. Like, right? Like you'd think he would just have to have more than that by definition, but no. But his defense has been the thing that has, I mean, I don't know overall, you can't say he's probably helped the team, but he's hurt it much, much less because he just makes that whole defensive unit a little bit better. And he's playing in the corners, um, and just doing a really good job with the glove. And even if he's not giving back so much with his bat. And that's kind of been the story with all these guys. You mentioned shortstop, right? Like Gleyber Torres was the shortstop for most of last season. They made a hard call and moved him off of shortstop like during the season in the stretch drive. And now you could see like he's not a superstar defensive player at second base, but he's decent. He certainly is passable or more than passable. And his offense is not back to where it was, but he certainly has woken up. And all of a sudden you look up and he's got 12 homers. Giancarlo Stanton only has 13. Rizzo has 15 and Judge has 24. So like you start to add that in the mix, you're like, wow, like Gleyber Torres has been a lot better than I thought. And that's picked things up for LeMahieu, who's kind of in the same spot that he was last year offensively. He's not quite what he was the couple of years that he started with the Yankees, but when he plays defense at third and second, and then even fills in at first there when needed in a Gold Glove type capacity, 262 with a 347 and a 747 OPS is yeah, that'll get the job done. So it's and we didn't even talk about the pitching, right?
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about the pitching. Scary. I don't know if we do that. Like, do we even do we even?
We're like almost out of time.
Yeah, no, we're almost out of the Yankee segment. I mean,
Exactly.
Nestor Cortez is warming up as we speak here. He's doing his stretches, and he goes in this game. He finally had a not so good outing in his last outing. That was his first subpar outing. 5-2 with a 196 ERA. Forget about all this fielding independent pitching and all that stuff. We know who we know who our listeners are. She gone. She gone. Record, ERA, WHIP, that stuff's gonna resonate with our crowd. But Garrett Cole, again, he's another guy. You'd think he was like terrible. He's 6-1 with a 3.33 ERA. Severino, 4-1, 280. Tyone, 7-1 with a 293, and then flirting with the perfect game. What's amazing to me, Dawg, is Jordan Montgomery has had 12 starts. He's had, he's in that category. Cole has a little, a little bit more innings pitched than the others because he's had one or two more starts. But they're all in that 60-something range, and Montgomery's only 2-1, but his numbers just stack up well. It's like they're all kind of the same guy, and then Cole and Cortez are like a little bit step above them. So you're going five deep, and then you get into the bullpen, and you got Michael King and Clay Holmes, guys who you were just unheralded, and their whips are 096 and 067. Um, Loizaga really hasn't been good yet. He hasn't gotten on track. He's actually been bad. Chad Green's out for the year. Chapman's hurt. But like Clark Schmidt has stepped in. He's playing a bigger role. Wandy Peralta barely used in the first 40 games of the season. Now he's like a regular guy in there again. And it just keeps going on and on and on. It's like whoever they plug in isn't just doing well, they're doing extremely well. But they're being helped out a lot by their defense. And I think a lot of these guys are willing in big spots to pitch to a little contact because they can, like Tyona Montgomery especially. I think it's really, really helped those guys. So
Yeah.
that's
And
our
like I
Yankee.
say, and that's like the defense, that feedback loop, right? That that clearly has a rub off on the pitchers as well. They're more comfortable at it. They can go at it, guys. They don't have to fear of walking a guy. If I get behind, I can throw a pitch and let a guy hit it and let a guy make a play for me. So
Or throw the curveball in the dirt because you know it's going to get blocked.
yep,
Or
good point. Yep.
throw a fastball up high and know that you're not going to have your catcher sticking his glove out a moment too late, right? Dog, a quick aside.
Hmm.
I happen to be I was watching the Angel Dodger game, and we'll do more on the Angels later.
Hmm.
Did you see the play where Trout's bat broke?
Oh, that was terrible.
And
Oh boy,
so it's so hard to describe, but so Trout hits a ball off the handle. The ball actually, this is unbelievable. Like he hits a ball off the handle that breaks the bat, but not in traditional form. And
yeah.
the ball ends up being a long fly ball to center field somehow that the center fielder drops, and he ends up
Yeah, I
getting.
didn't even know where the ball went actually.
It did. It went to center, and he dropped it. It almost went to the warning track.
Wow.
So he hit it on the handle, and so the bat was broken, but it didn't disembark. The long part of the bat didn't disembark from the handle of the bat, so it broke probably about 3 inches above where his right hand. He's a right-handed hitter. That's his top hand. It broke about 3 to 6 inches above where his top hand is on the handle, but it didn't disembark from the
I
bottom of
think
the bat.
detach is what we're looking for, but
Detach. Yeah.
unless he's enough,
I
sure.
was looking for the
But
word. I was sounding like that. And
yeah,
then,
it's sort of like wrapped, almost like wrapped around like his
yeah,
body, and then
yeah. On the
yeah,
follow
and then
through,
doinked off the
obviously
catcher.
his hand stopped, and the bat. I think the bat hit his own back, like it wrapped around his own back, the broken part, shard off, and went into the umpire's mask, and it found the open spot, like where the eyes are, where it's small enough that a ball, like even a really hard foul ball, can't get through, but like, and even the barrel of the bat would be too big to get through. But that part of the bat somehow got through, and of course it's the
And like
shard
the
part,
perfect angle, and yeah,
and
just absolutely.
it hit him right by the eye. Thank God he didn't lose the eye. I mean, that was so scary. And even the catcher, Will Smith, I think he caught a splinter. And at first, Trout.
Well, he got clonked on the head. He actually got the barrel on his head.
Oh,
So
that's what it was.
it's
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
like
yeah.
bouncing, almost like spun off the top of his helmet
Yeah, that's
to
right.
to
That's
kind
right.
of help kind of come in. Yeah, and like just the angle that it has, like it had to be at the perfect angle just to stay like that and be far enough in, right? So it almost had to be like at a flat angle to even get into the mask like that. I mean, it
Yeah,
just
it
makes it
was.
just unbelievable coincidence on coincidence to try and have that happen.
And at first, you could see Trout had concern with Smith. And then he realized like he hit the ball, so he has to run. And I don't even think he realized until later that like what I don't think anybody realized what happened to the ump. But thank God everybody they sprinted out. And these umps, oh my God, they are tough as nails.
Oh yeah,
So for one of those guys to like go down like that and stay down, and you could see and hear to some degree when you watched a certain replay said my eye, and you're like, oh my goodness, I hope
yeah.
this man is okay. But apparently he was his I don't think that the eye was affected, and he just got a laceration, and they used three umps for the it was already the ninth inning. um, and the Dodgers held on for a 2-0 win with the bases loaded. Kimbrough got out of it somehow. um, I had bet the Angels in game. They were like plus 500. So I bet the Angels and the Diamondbacks when they were losing by a run. I'm like, I think I'm just gonna parlay these guys up, and like the Diamondbacks were losing, and then they had like they tied it, and it was a 0-0, and the Reds went up 1-0 in the top of the 10th. I'm like, I'm just gonna bet the Diamondbacks because the Reds are not gonna hold them. And sure enough, they triple in the ghost runner with one out to make it 1-1. I'm like, yes, they got a guy in third. There's one out. Pop up, fly out. I'm like, oh my god. Then they give up two in the next inning, and then they tie it again. And then they give up two in the next inning, and they lose 5-3. And then the Angels, I had them too. They were losing 2-0 or 1-0, and then 2-0. They load the bases with like one out in the ninth, and then Kimbrel gets out of it. Max Stassi looking at strike three on a 3-2 pitch. Come on. Swing the bat. Swing the bat, Matt. Jeez. All right, Mets.
Metsies.
Chris Bassett's your story right now, right?
100%.
Because
Yep.
he turned around a series of subpar outings after a phenomenal start and was just totally dominant on Tuesday night as the Mets continue to cruise. Dawg, what's interesting? Well, somebody had a great stat about I think it was Yankee Nerd Stats or whatever. Michael K mentioned it. The Red Sox they were like 21-10 in their last 31 games, and they lost 2 games in the standings to the Yankees, which is like freaking crazy. But the Mets, look what's going on with the Mets. The Braves, as we speak, have won 13 in a row. That could go to 14 because they're playing the Nationals. The Mets still have a 5-game lead without DeGrom and Scherzer. That is something. The world champs, 13 in a row. Mets still have a 5-game lead over them. The Phillies fired Joe Girardi. They had won the previous game before they fired him. They're streaking now. They're now 32-31. The Atlanta Braves are 36-27. The Mets at 41-22 still have a 9-game lead over the Phillies. Phillies walked one off today, by the way. They were losing 1-0 to the Marlins, and they got a 3-run homer, lefty on lefty, in the ninth, down to their last strike. Dog, even the Marlins have picked it up, 28-33. But they're 12 games out, and the Nats stink. And Strasburg came off from the thoracic outlet surgery, pitched like one game, and now he's back on the shelf. So the Nats are not going to be a threat. Well, what only matters for them at this point is we see if they actually decide to just trade Juan Soto, keep trying to re-sign him, or try to do a few things that line up so they could make a play to keep him for the long term at some point. That's really what you're watching at this point for the Nationals. But Dawg, the big thing, right, for the Mets that I think they got to watch out for is with Atlanta and Philly. They're not going to really let up here. Now the Mets have scored 320. The Braves have scored 300, and the Phillies have scored 304. Only the Dodgers and the Giants in the National League, plus the Cardinals, have eclipsed 300 runs. And I think the Yankees are the only American League team that have done it. So that's rare air. Like there's some big juggernaut offenses there. The Mets have one, but there are 2 other ones right within their division. That's why that Bassett being on point. And Carrasco, if he can keep up what he's doing, they're not dominating hitters, but they're pitching well enough to win games. They're pitching to their offense. That's a really good sign. A really good sign. And you got Taijuan Walker again. Their numbers are not spectacular like the Yankee numbers are. You're talking, Bassett has he's 5-4 with a 4.01 ERA and a 1.18 WHIP. Cookie Carrasco 7-2. He's been a guy that's been a winner before. Again, not spectacular. 3.93 ERA, 1.22 WHIP. Taijuan Walker 4-2. 3.08 ERA and a 1.25 WHIP. David Peterson 3-0. He's made eight appearances and 6 of them starts, and he's the scheduled starter for this game that the Mets are getting ready to play here. So David Peterson, 1.25 WHIP and a 3 ERA. So these guys they don't have the spectacular numbers that the Yankees have, but what all of them have in common is they have more wins than losses. And again, that's a little old school. Is see Dawg to me, that's a Buck Showalter sign right there. He knows that he could ride these guys out a little bit more than most of these other teams are doing or have tended to do over the last few years. And his a lot of his Oriole staffs were the same way, where he got that it hurt them in the playoffs, but he could get these guys like he'll beat you with yours and he'll beat you with his, right? And he just needs these guys to kind of still be that good. And then when they get Scherzer back and they get DeGrom back, those guys slot right up to the top. And they're going to be tough to beat. They're going to be really tough to beat. But their offense has to keep cranking for this thing to work. And I really see no reason why it won't, Dawg. I don't.
Yeah, I mean that's normal. I would kind of argue that almost the Mets there, like power wise and stuff, really they're actually arguably even a little bit disappointing. Outside of Alonso, it's really the change in organizational mindset and going back and getting the key hit and moving guys along and doing all the smart baseball moves that are really getting. I mean, if you're looking at like OPS, I mean, you have Alonso's 928. I mean, he's cranking away, leading home runs and RBIs, all that. After that, you got one or two other guys, and it's McNeil and Gourmet, ironically enough, sitting up there at 818, 811. Like that's it, right? Then you're getting sub 800. So Nimmo's doing well, like just under 800. Canada, but like these guys are sort of like your average, just kind of your typical sort of stuff that you would get from, right? So nothing's really popping out at you at this point of folks who could really be cranking. So it kind of feels like there actually should be some upside on the offense that could be coming for them. Very spot on with the pitching. That they've really shown the depth, and that would have been a classic one. Like the Mets simply would not. This wouldn't have happened 2 or 3 years ago. Right? You would have had DeGrom go out, Scherzer go out, and you just start getting lit up all over the place. And they've had enough depth to go down. I mean, they lost 3 starters. I mean, I guess 2.5. Like McGill was sort of the first spot starter, so 3 of your top 6, let's call it, and lost all 3 of them. And we're still able to go ahead and regenerate with Williams and Peterson stepping up. So when you get DeGrom and Scherzer back, that kind of strengthens everyone out. Lugo seems like he's starting to kind of get it squared away a little bit. He got off to a rough start. Now if he starts to solidify, that really helps strengthen the bullpen. You had no May, so if you had Lugo doing terribly, you had no May. You kind of been riding Diaz pretty hard. He's performed great for you. That's probably one risk I would say that maybe you wear him out a little bit too much. McCann going down, right? Another kind of big injury. So they've taken a share of lumps, and I said they're still cranking away in the second best team in baseball. Bullpen help probably coming in July would be my guess for the stretch run for them, obviously, and DeGrom and Scherzer coming in. Solidifies up. So you basically got your trade date moves for the starters. So really, you're probably looking at another guy there, and then catcher. Let's see how McCann kind of comes back on that. My guess is go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Can we jump in on catcher a little bit, because I want
to.
You're surviving with so far 109 at bats from Nito, and now 43 from Patrick Mazeika, and you're just getting literally like no offense from either of those guys. Like it's really, really light. It's really tough. You get good defense. So is it with the DH now? Is it enough that you could carry those guys if something, like if McCann comes back and he's even his bad offense is going to be a little bit better than that, right? Like we should never say his worst case scenario, but like, because actually his numbers are even worse than either of the other guys.
Yeah, he wasn't exactly rocking it. I mean, last year he was better, obviously, right? He was not great. He was a little disappointing, let's say, from the Mets, from what they expected when they brought him in and stuff. And I'll go out and say it. I mean, here we got the guy in the minors coming up that people are already starting to talk about bringing him in. So I think that's too early I think that's a next year move, so which again sort of makes you feel that you don't necessarily want to go out and make the big splashy move for catcher at the break. You probably want to try and stitch together, knowing that you have a strong young guy coming up from the minors. But yeah, and until then, yeah, basically, if you get decent defense from the catching position, you can bridge it, right? There's enough hitting on around from the rest of it that I think you can bridge it. But that's certainly a weak spot for the Mets right now.
But the thing is, like, I think you kind of incur some risk. Like, and we're talking about the scenario where McCann just really can't make it back, or he comes back and he can't really contribute, and maybe he ends up just kind of missing the rest of the year. Um, do you mess with the chemistry of a team like that when it's a position that's so integral like catcher? Because these guys have done well handling your pitching staff. They've done well taking a staff that doesn't have these flashy numbers in terms of ratios and analytics and stuff like that, and they've gotten the most out of them. And maybe there's something to that, right? Like for a long time, for a million years in baseball, we saw even great teams, and we said, okay, if I have a no-hit catcher and a no-hit shortstop, but they're really great defensively, I'll find the hitting at the other positions, and we'll get by with those spots in the lineup. They only really have that with kind of one spot in the lineup, right?
Yeah.
So, like, and now you have a DH. So if it was a situation where your pitcher was still hitting in the National League, then it's sort of a black hole at the bottom of the lineup. Well, now you could kind of hide those guys, and you could do different things, and you could hope that they put the ball in play. Now Nito, he strikes out a lot. 35 Ks in 38 games is not what you're looking for. But Mazika's only struck out 5 times in his 15 games, right? And McCann is more of a strikeout guy too. He strikes out 11 times in 56 games. But then again, when he's back, you figure he's providing you a little bit better offense and not giving up much on the defense compared to those other two guys. I'm not sure that if I were the Mets that I would run out and make that move on catcher either from the minors or from another organization unless there was just a good defensive guy that fit the bill, or you felt like it was somebody that you said, well, we'll give him Mazika's spot and see if we catch lightning in a bottle like the Yankees did with Jose Trevino. I just don't think I would mess around with it.
Yeah, I
um,
would I would think if they do make the move, I am sort of skeptical that they'll bring up Alvarez. To be honest, because he's really renowned much more as a hitter. Super young. I mean, he's 20. He's like young for Double A, right? He's flat out. He's 20 years old. So like having him like interface with some of these veteran pitchers and stuff. I guess you could argue the veteran pitchers know what they're doing, and Alvarez just got to make sure he catches the ball. Defensively, I think he's okay. So it'd be one thing, I guess, if you said like he had like a cannon of an arm, he hit 200, but he'd be a uh, good defensive guy, and that's going to kind of work. That's not really his sort of situation. So I think if you were going to make the move on, you probably get like an older guy, finished up the end of the year or something like that, and you're really just kind of trying to replace um, McCann in the lineup basically, to bridge it to the following year. So I guess there's a shot on that, but probably not a ton. Mazika's a funny way. He's sort of a fan favorite. Actually, Nino is sort of a fan favorite too, which is classic Mets along the way. Mazika's a funny bat. Like he does actually put the ball in place. I kind of wonder he might even get hosed a little bit on his hitting and stuff, because he does actually put the ball in play pretty well. But the average is not showing it for right now. But yeah, I mean the trick is, right, again, is that they're in a tough division, right, and that's what you're gonna see is how much they can hold them off at this point. Now I'm not too worried on the Phillies. I mean the Braves, obviously they're always the Braves. They're always tough. Get off to a slow start and now they're cranking away. They've been feasting a little bit, right? So the Mets kind of got through. They got through their West Coast swing, which again years past would have finished them off and stuff, right? Went through about as hard as you're going to get, and we're 5-5. that feels pretty good, including 2-2 against the Dodgers. And clearly we're right there with them the whole way through. So I'm feeling cautiously optimistic here, and I think Nats being kind of dead and dormant out of the way, that makes you feel kind of a little better too. That it turns into this sort of top 2 or 3, and it's turned into the race that we kind of thought it would be. Except everyone's doing a little bit better than we thought, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least of late, right?
Of late,
Of
yeah.
late.
Hmm.
Now the Braves got a big blow because Ozzy Albies, their great second
Mm,
baseman, just broke his foot. It was a very strange play. It was
yeah,
non-contact. He swung and his foot just kind of snapped in a weird way. And again, he's one of these guys that his numbers are never really as flashy as he is in terms of like his importance to the lineup. So you're like, okay, he's 244, 8 home runs, 33 ribbies. That's nice in 62 games, but his OPS is 694. They might be able to just get a second baseman to do that. He's just a key guy in their lineup. He does what they need him to do when they need him to do it. And I feel like you saw that in the playoffs, especially last year. And it's like, he might be 0 for 3, but then he gets that one hit right in the middle of a rally. Like that's Ozzy Albies. The other thing is, if you look at their lineup, Doc, especially since Acuna came back, um, they have really done all this rallying here with the regulars, and they are not very deep. It's Austin Riley, Ozzy Albies, Matt Olson, Marcell Ozuna, Dansby Swanson, pending free agent, Adam Duvall, who's streaky and hasn't streaked yet. Darno's done most of the catching, but William Contreras, who's Wilson's brother, who has been incredible. I mean, that he stepped in. And of course, Ronald Acuna has had he's played about half their games so far. So,
that's sure.
now with Albies out, Dog, that really concerns me for them. I want to see, what they're exactly going to do, and how they're going to fill the hole here, um, and just how it pans out for Atlanta, because again, it's you're not losing your top offensive player. He's a very good defensive player, but he's a glue guy. He's the glue to me of the
Yeah.
Braves.
Yeah,
And
particularly with Freeman out, right? So that is no one like who's always kind of been there for the Braves over time, and I think you're spot on with that. And again, we're sort of highlighting that more, like sort of swing back away from the quantitative and sure focus on the numbers. That he's just a key guy within that lineup that makes the magic happen, and it doesn't always get captured in the box score.
yeah, Orlando Arcia, I think, is going to probably take over at second base. And the funny thing is, in his 18 games, he's hitting 327 with a 912 OPS. So he's
Of course he
offensively been
is.
better. But like he's, that's that he doesn't have a history of doing that. He's definitely a pretty good defensive player, and he's been, a shortstop for a lot of his career. So he should be able to handle it. But we'll see if. We'll see if the Braves can keep up this killing pace without, like we said, their glue guy, who's Ozzy Albies, and I think it's like 6 to 8 weeks, Dog, and with a foot injury,
Yeah, it's
you
always
just
tough, right?
yeah
Especially
you don't
middle infielder too, right? So
yeah you don't know how it's gonna affect him for the long term either, right? The other thing you have is their pitching has been a little bit up and down, and you got a few guys really starting to feel it here. Kyle Wright, Max Fried at the top of the rotation. These guys have been very, very good, but Charlie Morton has sucked. And but he's still 4-3, right? He's got a 5.67 ERA and a 1.48 WHIP. You figure that Charlie Morton's curveball at some point he's gonna find it. It'll probably be in like a big game against the Mets.
yeah,
um,
hopefully the 7 line finds it a couple times off of Alonso's bat.
yeah, Spencer Strider has been very good. He's now made 3 starts after I think it was 11. I think he's had 11 straight relief appearances to start the year. His numbers are phenomenal, but we'll see if those numbers start to regress back toward the norms here as he takes a spot in the starting rotation. Ian Anderson hasn't been so great. Kenley Jansen at the back of the pen has saved 18 out of 21, and when they don't have him, they have Will Smith, and that's a pretty good 1-2 combo there, but it's not unbeatable at the end of games. It's just tough when they're really tough, and they've pieced together a couple of starts from some other guys, and nobody's really stood out. That's probably where they've really missed Waskari Noah, who was so good for them last year before he got hurt, and this year hasn't didn't do anything in his 6 2/3 innings. So I think they're going to have a lot of trouble keeping up this pace, dog. I don't know. I just don't know if they have enough right now to make a run at the Mets for the division. Let's say that. I think it's a little smoke and mirrors right now. And
Yep.
the fact that not so much smoke and mirrors right now, but for the streak, but from here on in without Albies for the next couple of months, I I'm skeptical. Unless if Orlando Arcia comes in and plays like an MVP, I'm going to look like an idiot. But I think Albies is the key, and I think the Braves are they'll probably stay at this 5 to 10 games over 500 for a while here. And if they do that for the time that Albies is out, and then make a little run toward the end, maybe they could run at the division. But I think the Mets would probably be gone by then if the two big guns from the top of the rotation come back. I think the Braves with the streak have put themselves at worst in position to be right in the thick of it. They'd have to really collapse here from here on in to miss the playoffs. So that's probably good news for Atlanta either way.
Yeah, I
We'll
mean,
see.
looking at like the hitting and stuff, right? Like we were still saying with the Mets, like they're doing well, but you can kind of see some upside. Like there's some guys you could see like unlocking a little bit more and kind of really starting to kind of get it going, particularly on the power side and so forth. Like the Braves are kind of getting almost everything you can really sort of count on, right? There's a bunch of guys here like 900, well into the 800s on OPS and stuff like that. Like they're kind of getting it. So what's sort of the next
It's
leg that
Morton.
you're gonna have, right?
It's Charlie Morton, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. If he turns back into the usual Charlie Morton, then yeah, they can continue whatever they've been doing, and they'll keep going. But he has, he's not a kid anymore. He's pretty long in the tooth, Charlie Morton. He's pushing 40 at this point. So, um, you know, that's Father Time is undefeated, and if he's decided to come for Charlie Morton's curveball, then that's his ERA is going to be 5.67 at the end of the year, not just now. Phillies talk. Phillies. Robbie Thompson in for Joe Girardi. He was Girardi's right hand man for a million years. He was always a guy that was thought to be ready for as 2 generations. It seems like to have his own team, and he's brought the Phillies some good juju lately. The first thing you look at with the Phillies, dog, right, is their bullpen, and it's kind of a race to me. It's kind of like the Braves. I don't think are in much need as the bullpen as potentially the Mets, and for certain the Phillies. Um, is it a race for which of these NL East teams are going to go get those? I mean, listen, the Phillies could get 5 relievers. I mean, the only reliever that's done anything so far is Sir Anthony Dominguez. Everybody else has been, complete dog shit, pretty much. Like, I mean, there's like maybe Connor Brogdon's been decent, but he's only pitched 15 innings, and everybody else, like even Brad Hand, like he hasn't been anywhere looking like Brad Hand, right? Like, I mean, I guess his ERA is pretty decent, but he doesn't. You don't feel like Brad Hand is shutting you down at this point. He's just always got runners on base, even if they're not scoring. But Dominguez he's been pretty good, and the starters have actually not been too bad. Nola's been very good. 4-4 with the 3.42 ERA, but his peripherals are excellent. His WHIP is only .88. Um, Zach Wheeler, your guy. 5-3, 284 with a 109 whip. Kyle Gibson, who's not pitching in the front of your rotation. He's a third or fourth or fifth guy depending. He's been solid, 4-2 with a 404 and a 122 whip. Right, that's going to be fine for the back end of your rotation. Even Zach Eflin, he's 2-4, 398, 115 whip. Ranger Suarez hasn't been very good. Which is disappointing for me because I have him in my fantasy team and I expected big things from him this year after what he did last year. 4-4 with a 440 and a 150 whip, not very good. But again, he's pitching toward the back of the rotation, and the top three with Nola, Wheeler, and Eflin have been good, and then the 4 and 5 with Gibson has been pretty decent, and Suarez not so good at the fifth. Like the starting pitching is probably enough. Like they could just keep running those guys out there, and as long as these guys are not missing starts, which really they're not, they should be okay there. But man, I mean, it's a race. Like if they go out and they spend to get that bullpen, like I think they're going to be tough. I did pick them to win the division this year, as you know.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm
I
interested
think
to see.
it kind of pops out. It's kind of like the answer back to the Yankees last year, right? Their defense is atrocious, and I think that really comes back to bite these guys constantly. So they had the weak bullpen, and then the defense not great as well, and that cross product is just crushing them in games constantly. So they generally get off to a decent start, and then you can't have any confidence like fifth, sixth inning onward. And that's the thing, like you go into it, like I'm like, when the Mets are facing, I'm like, all right, we'll see. Like, and you just feel that it's only a matter of time before someone makes a crucial error, a crucial mistake, and it just comes back to bite them time after time. And so throughout the Mets and pretty much against most teams at this point. So just looking at them, I mean, versus the East, Philly's 8-15, and I think that's really sort of telling on. They're actually 13-10 versus the West, which is sort of remarkable. Slash, I'm wondering who they're playing on that one as well. But yeah, I think that's just straight up that there's maybe argue the Mets 1-1A with the Braves, but I think the Phils I think are definitely a notch back down. And yes, could they get bullpen help? True, but everyone's going to go for bullpen help too, right? So maybe get a guy, but you're not going to change all that defense out. And I think that's really their fundamental problem.
Well, you could maybe change some of the defense out if you had Bryce Harper able to play the outfield, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's a big killer. I mean, offensively, he's just he's repeating his MVP season here. Even though he's actually cut down his walk rate, which is kind of interesting. But his batting average is up. His on base, he's 317, 380 on base, 620 slugging, 1,000 OPS even, 15 home runs and 221 at bats. He's just dynamite offensively. Even Schwarber's picked it up. He's got the homers and his average is up to 207, and he walks a ton. But he's just every minute he's out there on defense.
He's a
Uh,
6.
yeah, he's just not good.
He's a
And it
four,
puts
and he's a 4, and he takes 2 off the center fielder too.
Yeah, and that is a problem because Odubel Herrera is not, he's their center fielder, but he's not great defensively.
Yeah.
Like he's okay if he has decent guys on either side of him, and when he has not good guys, but like especially bad guys on either side of him, he's just like it makes it even worse. So even his offense, which is pretty good, it, like all these guys in the outfield, Castellanos in right, we like that he tries, um, and he always hustles, but he's just not a gifted defensive player. Um, he always gives you 100% though, at least, and sometimes like you know you might not like it, but at least you could live with it when a guy does that. And he hasn't really hit yet. He's only hitting 253, 401 slugging, 710
This is
OPS. Like he's gonna hit probably more than that.
got a funny funny stat line here. So he's got a -1 for defensive WAR. All right, so don't shoot me, Jeff. I'm just sorting out. All right, just gotta get a sense. But he's got a fielding percentage of 1,000. was like, that's almost really hard to do. Like, you actually haven't even made an error, and they're still like, no, you suck anyway.
Yeah.
I know you haven't dropped any balls yet, but you're terrible.
Yeah, that is
That's
yeah,
that's almost hard to compute. Actually, how they come up with that.
well, I think that
It's like you
passes
just don't like you literally stand there like an oak tree.
like
like
that to me that analytic passes the eye test.
it does. Yeah, that's the real. It was funny. I'm looking at. I'm like, so I'm trying to look at some of the the behind the scenes on it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty funny. But yeah, that's it, right? The range just has to be like absolutely awful out there.
Yeah. But
Slash stuff's just bouncing off his club, and he's not somehow not getting called for an error on it or something. But
or he just doesn't get like
didn't
well
get to it at all. Yeah,
he's like Dave Magadan. I mean, if he gets to it, he's going to get it. He's just not going to get to much,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
that was Dave. I mean, he was an infielder, but like that was kind of Dave Magadan. If he got there,
yeah. He has soft
he was
hands.
going to get it.
Yeah,
He just wasn't going to get there a lot. Um, yeah, but it's hard. Like you go around the entire diamond, and you just don't see, besides Real Muto behind the plate, you just don't see any plus defensive players there. I mean, you could keep scraping and looking. I don't know how Bryson Stott is. I mean, he's supposed to be a good young player. It looks like he could hit. I don't know about the fielding. Gene Segura is like okay.
yeah.
He's been a shortstop and he plays second, but he never jumps off the page at me as being
He's a
really
rock in the Phillies, though.
yeah, yeah. And Reese Hoskins at first is, he's just not he's like Luke Voigt to me. Like he's all right,
Yeah,
but then when you see Anthony Rizzo playing every day, you're like, "Oh, I thought Luke Voigt was like okay." And now I realize like, wow, there's a big difference between where he is and the top. We'll see though. If they get the bullpen, listen, I mean, and maybe they could switch out somebody, or maybe Harper gets okay if he could play in the outfield, and they could maybe trade somebody or move somebody out or move somebody around. Maybe Castellanos goes to third, and you move Alec Bohm somewhere for something. Um, and you get a good defensive center fielder to plug in, and you move Schwarber to DH and Herrera to left. I mean, there might be ways that you could do it. If I sat here and savanted the Phillies, maybe I could kind of figure it out. But they got a big three-run walk-off homer from Garrett Stubbs, the backup catcher, lefty on lefty, to beat the Marlins today, and his numbers in the he's already got as many home runs as Real Muto does in a fourth of the games, pretty much. So you never know where these guys are going to come up from, the bottom of the ranks and surprise people, dog. But you know what would be a surprise, and maybe not to you, but to me, it would be a surprise if everybody out there was just feeling all great all the time and healthy and didn't have any aches or anything, and that they were not they were everything was going so well that you didn't really have to be concerned about your wellness. Well, since I don't know anybody like that, you know what I do, dog? I send them to Gatto Acupuncture in Glen Rock, New Jersey, because Gatto Acupuncture Wellness is a great start to helping you feel better. And if you already feel good, it'll help you maybe optimize for whatever you're doing in terms of your workouts or your lifestyle, whatever. You might opt for the needles, you might opt for any of the other services they offer. Go check them out at gattoacu.com, GATTOACU.com, or call 551 212 3845 to book. Once again, gattoacupuncture.com, gattoacu.com, or call 551 212 3845. The stress of moving, dog, could also do that to you. Make it less stressful if you're going to move to or from the Pascack Valley, the Northern Valley, or anywhere in northern New Jersey. Take the stress away. Leave it up to Michele and Gary with the Mascolo Group. They'll get you in where you need to be. They'll get you out of where you need to be, and they'll do it with bells on. Believe me, this is from multiple personal experiences. There's nobody better serving all of your real estate needs in North Jersey. Go to GaryMascolo.com, GaryMascolo.com, or call 212-615-3665, GaryMascolo.com, or call 201-615-3665, the Mascolo Group, for all your real estate needs. Once you move, you're going to need those we've moved cards, old school. We do things old school here. And printing and promotional needs, they're still a thing, you know. And actually, with things coming back the way they are, they're probably more a thing than they've been in the past few years. So that's why you have to go to fmsgraphics.com. For all of those printing and promotional needs, mere clicks away. FMSgraphics.com is a family run, family owned business for the last 50 plus years. So that's a track record. FMSgraphics.com for all your printing and promotional needs. FMSgraphics.com. And of course, if you're on the real estate trail, or if you're heading to your wellness appointment, or if you were just clicking around on your phone to get your printing and promotional needs when you're in your ride, you don't want to be embarrassed if you're just sitting there, right? You want your ride to look clean and spotless. And if you're going to be inside of it, you want it to be clean there too. So if you're in the Bergen or Passaic County areas, Dawg, you go to Big Ed's Car Wash, 17-16 River Road in Fair Lawn, right at the Bergen and Passaic border. Easy to get to, plenty of other stuff around there. And by the way, if you're looking to get some of the cheaper gas in the area, you're in that corridor as well. So a fill up, right? And then maybe an oil change over at Big Ed's, where they could do that for you as well. But most of all, what I love is the way that my car comes out of there, absolutely sparkling outside. And it stays a little cleaner outside than when you go to other places. Plus, no harsh chemicals, all recycling, and he's so clean and green over there. Plus, the service and the 118-foot tunnel. It's Ed's tunnel. You can't believe how big it is. Nobody can believe it. It's the best tunnel. I also love the treatment I get there because Ed's always there pretty much whenever I'm there, and he's not just greeting me, he treats all of his customers the same way. So Big Ed's Car Wash, Fair Lawn, New Jersey, 1716 River Road. Go there. Otherwise, you suck. All right, Dawg. Was that good?
Bottom line. Bottom line.
Okay.
Bottom line.
We got the plugs in. We got Uncle Paul up from his afternoon nap. We tried to sneak it in a little bit early for him. A couple of more things on the agenda. Uncle Paul, you'll have to go back and listen to the Mets and the Yankees segment, the Phillies segment as well. Uncle Paul's most hated team in all of sports, the Philadelphia Phillies. Dawg, before we hit Die Hard Dads, it's the Angels have been a big story here for us. I picked them as one of my Dark Horse World Series teams. I was looking good until the 14-game losing streak. Did you hear this story, Dawg? They had lost 13 in a row. Joe Madden, who is 70 or pushing 70, decided that to help his team turn around its fortunes, he went and got a mohawk. And before the game, he got fired. So his team never saw him get the mohawk. So he got the mohawk for nothing.
That's wrong.
And they named Phil Nevin the manager. Our pal Ray Montgomery remains as the bench coach there. So Ray is still there. I was wondering if they were going to elevate.
They wanted a little bit more experience, so they went with Phil.
Well, he's managed at a lot of different levels and a lot of games. But
so
you see Ray there, like every time, like I was watching the game last night, and there's Ray and Phil. They're talking it up through the whole game. So yeah, they Ohtani was really the one who stopped the streak. He pitched 7 really good innings, hit a home run, and finally they won. And but now they're 5 games under. They've fallen a half game behind Texas, and they're still a half game in front of Seattle. Perched in 3rd place behind the Astros. I was expecting the Astros to regress a little bit this year. They really haven't done that. They've been consistent. Dawg, when you lose 14 in a row, that's guaranteed you in baseball history no chance of winning a division. But can the Angels kind of right the ship, and with the expanded playoffs, do they have enough to maybe turn things around and still contend for a playoff berth?
I mean, I think I think they do. I think it's just been a baffling sort of underperformance at this early stage in the season. But yeah, man, that I think the talent is still there, and I mean you got a couple all-world guys on that team. I absolutely think the Angels can turn around. I think they will turn around. So, and I think actually I think they will continue to challenge for a division. So mark the tape. Mark the tape on that one.
Wow. Well, they got to make
I'm
up.
sticking with it.
They
They
got
got
to
to
make
make
up.
up a lot against a team that knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
right? So it's no easy feat. But I think there's a ton of talent on that Angel team, and I think they're going to find a way to get it going.
Yeah, they're 10 back. They're 4.5 back in the wild card. The Blue Jays have the first wild card. They have a 3.5 game cushion. The Rays have a 2.5 game cushion, and the Red Sox are sitting at the other wild card. The Guardians have jumped to 30 and 27. They're 2.5 back of Minnesota in the Central for the lead. They're a half game out of the wild card. The White Sox, with Tony La Russa and all that controversy over there with him and Max Muncy, 4.5 out in the division, 2.5 out in the wild card. Then Texas at 4 behind in the wild card. The Angels 4.5 and the Mariners 5. So yeah, there's some teams to jump, but it's still way early. I mean, but they're going to have to turn it around. The first thing,
Yeah,
right, when you bottom out, first of all, you have to realize, hey, we've bottomed out, and you can't drop further. And then the second thing to me, Dog, is get back to 500, right? Get back to 500. Then, get used to playing a game or two over 500. And then, as long as you do that, if you're good enough, your streak will come, and that'll give you that run to see if you can get actually back into the race. The Red Sox kind of did that already, right? But they're still only 4 over 500, so they have to continue playing like this here for a while. They can't. They could drop to 1 over, 2 over. They don't really want to drop below 500. As long as they do that, the Red Sox might have another run in them later. Like if Chris Sale could be a contributor or a few other things with their bullpen start breaking right. So we'll see. They're not out of it, but there's definitely work to do over there.
yeah.
All right, Doug. I think that we covered really most of the baseball stuff. We'll end it with the La Russa thing against the Dodgers when the White Sox were playing the Dodgers the other day over the weekend. People they just want to criticize the 70-something managers here and say the game has passed them by. Meanwhile, Dusty Baker was just, he's in the World Series, and um, you know, let's just lay off these guys. Tony Lewis is in the Hall of Fame for a reason. So here was the controversy, right? He intentionally walked Trey Turner with 2 strikes. And people are like, how are you walking a guy with 2 strikes, whatever? Meanwhile, nobody wants to give you the context around what happened. Freddie Freeman's on base, and he's on first. And then he moves up on a wild pitch. So now first base is open, and you have a lefty in. And, Trey Turner is basically like, as my friend Jake and I started referring to him a few years ago when he won us our fantasy league, White Jesus. Um, and he's up there, and he's against the lefty. And so, okay, there's 2 strikes, but La Russa decides to walk him anyway. That is really not the craziest thing I've ever heard by a long shot. Now, whether you agree or not is another thing. But to think it's an absurd move,
Yeah,
like
like he
if you're,
lost his mind.
yeah, like that's not the case. Like
Yeah,
Trey Turner won the batting title, and now a single can beat you, right? So just take that away. And you have a lefty pitching, and you have Max Muncy on deck, who is hitting, 150, and sure he walks a lot, but even if you walk him, you're only putting Freeman on third. You're not sending him home. And then Max Muncy hits a 3-run homer, and he's cursing at Tony La Russa and blah blah blah. Like, yeah, come on. Like, is this your first day in the bigs, Max? Like, maybe it's a lot of frustration for Muncy, who's been a core player for the Dodgers here. He was big, when they won the World Series. He had a rough year last year, and then was injured and wasn't in there for the playoff run, and they certainly could have used him. And then, of course, this year they signed Freddie Freeman, who kind of takes over the majority of that position. And, Muncy's pretty good as a first baseman and as a second baseman. Like, let's face it, he needs to provide a lot of offense there for you to make up for his shortcomings with the glove. He's a good defensive first baseman. He's not great, but he's solid. And at second, he's probably, below or significantly below league average, but you could probably get away with him as long as he does what, the back of his baseball card has been saying he's doing. So it could have been that he had a lot of frustration and he just all let it out at once, but you know, like learn the game. Like Tony La Russa is not making some crazy thing. And I guess if you got all fired up and you took that as your motivation, he doesn't really have a reputation of doing stuff like that. But it's just you don't like to see it from the guys who don't have the reputation because then it gives the guys who are up and coming, and think that, they've seen that this stuff is like okay to do, that they're like, oh, well, friggin' Max Muncy did it, so like, what's going to stop me from doing it? You and I don't like to see it. We like to, play the game, quote unquote, the right way. We're a little old school. It might sound like old man yells at cloud, but I do think this stuff is really important, and so, I wanted to call it out. I don't know if you saw it or, all of our uh,
Yeah, I
viewers and
didn't I didn't
listeners
see I didn't
saw
see
it.
the clip. I did read about it, and yeah, okay, good for you, Max. Congratulations, you finally get a hit.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
Anyway, another before we switch over, happy birthday Butler Miller, our buddy, who I didn't get to see him at the Fordham Jubilee. Unfortunately, we had different days, but Butler had a birthday this week, and we're going to talk a little bit more about birthdays here in our final segment of Die Hard Dads. Uh, yeah. So speaking of that, dog, I'll let you share what would have been a special day today. A little bittersweet, but
Sure. Yeah, we had yeah, those who know on the show. We talked for us that that had passed away last month. So we had his celebration of life, I guess we call it now. So it's his funeral mass and then get together after. Kind of the way they want it. I gotta say, it was a wonderful experience getting to get together and see some of my cousins I'm seeing a long time on the Healy side and get together and kind of reminisce and think of the good times with that we had with Dad and the high standard they set for all of us that we hope to achieve and pass down to the next generation. Today would have been today was his birthday as well, so that's it's a little tough today, but yeah, it was a good experience. I say I kind of like the whole sort of way of like taking a little break between the event and the actual mass and stuff like that. It actually helped everyone out. I think kind of all around. So that was kind of nice. So it was nice to a couple of guys maybe able to sneak up. Some of the Fordham crew got to sneak up. And should I quit into the boomer story?
of
That's
course
so good.
that
But
counts.
we're gonna run this along. This is gonna take a little bit, but so our friend Boomer was going to come in and surprise me. So I actually grew up with Boomer, so I went to high school with him in addition to Fordham. So he knew Dad and his mom knew Dad and stuff like that from back in the day up in Westchester. So Boomer's gonna come in and surprise me, which would have been surprising. He lives in Arizona. For him to kind of come in. He was going to come in a couple months anyway. So he definitely would have caught me off guard coming in. So he decides he's going to fly in last minute from Arizona. Apparently pays a fortune for the ticket, and he's going to take the red eye. So right, whatever, no big deal. Boomer's like a early rise, early to bed, pop back up again, and then pass back out again sort of guy. So he kind of goes in waves throughout the day. But he's the first guy I know of who actually overslept an 11 p.m. flight, which is fairly hard to do, but it's really hard to do when you're actually in the airport at the gate as well. And he found a way. So he's got through TSA. He's done the stupid human tricks. He's got everything. He got to where he's got to be. and sacked out. Apparently, nobody wanted to screw with the sleeping 6'5" Hessian, who I assume was hammered.
No, he told me it wasn't. He said it
Uh,
was not a non-alcohol experience because part of the reason he paid for the ticket that he did was he was going to have it was a free booze ticket for the plane, so he could drink as much as he wanted to
yeah.
on the plane.
I think there was a little pregame involved, so he wasn't destroyed,
Yeah.
but I think he was setting the stage. I think he was a little bit of pregaming, but yeah, that's the normal sleepy time, and got him sacked out. So he said he's rolling it forward to another ticket. So so that's kind of like the parting gift from Dad. He got to do that, but we appreciate very much the effort that Boomer made. It would have been a great surprise, and instead it's a great story that we of course will let him live down. Never.
Yeah, I said, I mean, it would have been great for him to show up, but now I think we probably have an even better story that we're
Oh
going to
yeah,
remember for
yeah. This
longer.
this is the gift that's going to keep on giving.
Oh yeah, this is absolutely. Boomer Hilbert reporting. Go follow him on Twitter. Actually, I
Yeah,
think it's
exactly.
Boomer Hilbert or Hilbert13, something like that,
Hilbert 13, I think.
on
Sticks with,
Twitter.
oh,
Yeah,
that might be his email. Oh,
we retweet his stuff a lot.
yeah,
Like
let
he'll
me
be
see.
if he's in Arizona, if he's at a game or something, he'll take pictures for us and post it up there and always say Boomer Hilbert reporting.
Definite friend of the show. So
Yes, big supporter of the show since day one.
stuff.
Okay, Doc. On the lighter side, well, and in
It's
homage to your dad.
Hilbert_Jack.
Oh, okay. Hilbert
That was
underscore Jack.
that's way too normal sounding.
Yeah.
Is
So
that
go
is that real or
follow
is that
him.
me?
That's him. No, that's is
That's him.
is that him?
Is that my fake boomer god? Kind of feel like I gotta start one.
So sort of switching gears. As I said earlier, wish my brother Frank a happy birthday, and today would have been my parents' wedding anniversary. It would have been a lot of weddings ago, maybe 69, something like that. My brothers and sisters, if they're listening, I don't know. Usually my sister Michelle's on here. I don't know if she's on right now. She'll pop in there in the comments and say which anniversary it would have been. Both of my parents have since passed, but always a big day, for that my brother was born on their anniversary and one of my sisters 2 days later. Um, so good times in the middle of June for all the Rizzo Geminis. We're in like this big swath of birthdays where we have like 2 weeks where it's like everybody's birthday, like my Aunt Marie, um, and a whole bunch of others. And then we do it again like in August around my birthday. We kick it off again. And then in the Rizzo house, like everybody else's birthday is October, like a week apart. But aside from that, Dog, my diehard dads this week was on this weekend. Luisa Rizzo had she went to a hockey thing that was up in Connecticut, and coordination months in advance was executed, and after the responsibilities on ice on Saturday, we drove a few miles from where we were to a baseball field in Connecticut and were able to catch the last 3 or 4 innings of the L7's travel baseball team game. Now, what does that mean? That means we got to see Lillian Martineau in person. So we finally
Right.
Louisa and I got to meet Lily. We got to meet Katie, her mom, and of course her great dad, Chad, who not only has been on the show, but I think he has been Veteran of the Day and is also the L7's coach. And we managed to do that. Katie was not able to hang around with us for too long after the game. She had to depart. And then Chad and Lily and Louisa and I went out to a nice dinner. And we got to chat. And we were talking about a lot of really good stuff. We were talking about Shigon and doing things the right way. And the importance of that, like we were talking about a little bit before, and how that really trickles down all the way to these youth levels where it's vital. Like for instance, there was a kid in the game that they were playing on the other team, and there was a lot of chirping from like a dad in the stands, and it's just not a good look. It's just not a good look. And then this kid comes up, and there's a kid on first, and he hits the batter hits a double, and he's fast,
Mhm.
and he was at first before the other kid was really even at second. He had to hold up a little bit because he wasn't sure if the ball was going to fall. And he runs in there and he takes a big turn around second, and the other kid's at third, and there's no, he's got to stop at third. And I'm on the other side, and I could hear the kid go, "You stopped at third? What are you, a plow horse?" I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, this is your teammate. Like, what? Like, that's not that's not a good reflection on you or your team or the kid. Like, are you trying to embarrass your teammate who just singled in a run before that? Like I was surprised that such a kid who could make such an ignorant statement actually knew what a plow horse was. That's all.
Must have just had a history or something.
Yeah, I used that joke like 3 times already. I'm like, yeah, to all the Martinos got a little chuckle out of that. It was pretty good. But it just goes to show you the importance of um, being a good teammate and being a good person. It means something. It carries over. And for you kids that are coming through the ranks, you get to colleges, and some of these schools are not caring about that, and more of them do care about it. And at some point, they're going to really look at the way things are, and they're going to say, you know what, I just really don't need these kids that are kind of, you know, going to be showboating or
Yeah,
doing crazy bat flips, or like the kid from Tennessee,
yeah.
he hits a home run and he's given the finger to the outfield, and they've been number one in the country all year, and then Notre Dame dumps him, right? And they don't even make the College World Series. I mean, and
Karma.
everybody's saying the same thing. Karma. They're saying it. Everybody's saying it.
Exactly.
Now, whether it's karma or not, I don't know. But the best team didn't advance, and why? What is that? Is there an accumulation of all these kind of negative things, right? It's just there. It's immature,
Yeah.
and it's because the people in charge don't want to draw lines and tell others. The ones who are in charge don't want to tell others, look, I mean, sure, I suppose you could do it that way. And I suppose you could live on this side of the line. But why? Ask yourself why. What does it really help? What are you showing in that moment? Does that really bring you so much joy? Does that make you a better player? What does it do? Like, what are you doing to enhance your little part of the world by acting that way? And the answer, as you know, as a father, as a damn good father, a damn good guy, and a damn good friend, you know that the answer is it does nothing when they do that. If you have a moment to yourself, and every now and then you kind of explode for joy, or you make a mistake or whatever, but that's not the way you normally do things, that's okay. You make mistakes, and you should have your teammates correcting you before your coaches have to correct you. You should have your teammates feel comfortable enough to keep you in line and move you forward. And if they're not your teammates and you don't play sports, it should be your classmates. And if it's not your classmates, it should be your friends. And if it's not your friends, it should be your coworkers. And we're losing so much of that. And the thing that I felt that night, I felt so good sitting with Chad and Lillian, because I could see in just a short time they're living that way, and those things mean something to them.
Yep.
And immediately I felt like that's why Lillian has been such a successful kid already at 16. I mean, she's
Yep.
getting, we're making jokes about how she's getting tweets from Wade Boggs. I'm like, do you even understand the specter? Like, we're like, Chad and I are talking. He's like, your kid is getting, like, Wade Boggs is just saying, oh, what am I
Oh,
doing
hey,
on a
Lily, how you
Saturday
do? How'd you
afternoon?
do?
Hey, Lily, keep your hips back, like it's Wade Boggs. I mean, and
Yeah, I mean, and the important thing too is that that carries through to life. Like we sort of to tie it around, right? With baseball and life, right? Like that kid who's talking trash. That's great. You're fasting and you got decent hands, something like that. You know what? Maybe God willing, maybe even get you know, get a partial scholarship to college and stuff like that for baseball, right? We can that's probably baseball scholarship thing's probably a whole nother show sometime for us to do. But like you're eventually going to get into life, right? And if you have that kind of attitude, like you better be like the best thing that's ever happened and like can run your own software company or something else like that, because everything else I know in life requires interpersonal skills. And if you have that kind of attitude and that gets ingrained in you, that you're setting yourself up for a hard road to go down. And it's hard to break that once you've had that set, and once you set that foundation, that is difficult to kind of change. So yeah, that's great. You can have your little laughs and giggles on the field and stuff, but it's not going to help you at the higher levels of the game, and certainly afterwards in the game and the rest of life. People just it's too easy. You're too easily replaced, and maybe that's people don't kind of get. And my industry can be kind of brutal at that and stuff. But you know what? There's probably 100 people who can do what you do in most professions stuff, right? So who's going to want to abstain? Who's going to get the job? Someone that you actually want to work with, right? It's not like also magically I can invent a new way to use Excel and stuff like that. And generally I come around because I'm an easy person to kind of talk to, and we can transact and make it easy to go do both of our jobs, right? And that's kind of the secret to life. And if the kid doesn't get it, unfortunately, he's just gonna be one of those guys to say, you know what, I sent my resume out, nobody responded. And that's sort of the sad truth of it. No one's going to come out and say it's because you're an a-hole, but when people aren't around, they're going to say, why not? Because he's an a-hole. And that's whatever. Take it for what it's worth, kid, if you're out there listening. But change your ways, or things are gonna be tough.
And it's a shame when you see it, because obviously you could just tell by watching him he's a talented kid,
Yep.
right? He's a
Yep.
talented kid. You could see it. It doesn't take that long. You don't have to, you could watch a kid play even a few innings, and if you see the right thing, and you could tell that he's a talented kid. But what's it for? Like, part of your talent is also how you behave.
Yeah.
And
I'll actually, if you want, if I could real quick, I got an example with one that kid was just playing. I don't know him personally. I know of him. He plays in whatever in the leagues around us. Let me just put it that way. And really, really good player. I mean, will be a high school player, probably even a college player, I would say. Goes around and starts F-bombing a kid because he made a couple nice catches on him, like out in the outfield, like like a younger kid too. Like I think it was club versus club. I don't think it was actually in our league, but no, I know of the kid. And goes like through the line and goes like basically F bombs that you caught to something, F bomb, like not like a kidding around, sort of like a hey, what a great job or something like that, which is what a normal person would do, like really like angry. I'm like, you know what? Everyone else in that line can hear that, right? These are his peers all around there through life. Eighth grader, big eighth grader saying that to like a younger seventh grader or something like that. And I'm sure his coach could hear that. What's he doing on it? Nothing, right? But you know what? It's just a guarantee, right? That's going to come back to bite that kid in the ass. And he unfortunately will probably never even know why living his life along the way like that. And like I said, if you're Scott down in Princeton, right? You know what? I got a million kids who can throw 90 miles an hour, right? So you're shit hot in when you're eighth grade and stuff. When you get to going up to college, whatever, I got a bunch of guys like that. But you know what? There's one out here that has all sorts of gets into it on social media and stuff like that. I'm just not even gonna bother, right? Doesn't need. It's not worth his time. Like I said, that kid will never want to realize it, and that's sad. It's sad when you see it.
yeah,
and
I never
but
did anything like that when I was younger. You know why? Because my dad would have beat the shit out of me.
Jack Sacker, our coaches and everything else, right? And rightfully
Our
so.
coaches, yeah,
Yeah, you never get away with that.
never.
No,
You just never.
no.
They'd say and it didn't matter like if you were the best player, like
Yeah. And
yeah,
that's
they
not even
just
like showboating. Like, you can even get the argument a little bit if it's like the showboating and stuff. Game has changed a little bit, whatever. I disagree, but that to me is sort of like you can have an argument on that. Like I can understand the other side. I disagree with you, but I will understand the other side on it. Just behaving like an a-hole to your teammates and your opponents, that's always a no. It's an easy no. And I don't understand why his authority figures are not expressing it. And I'm extending to the kid you're talking about over the weekend. But it's a crying shame. It's just it's wasting talent. So
Yeah, if you get a hit or whatever, and you're pointing to your dugout, or you get pumped,
yeah,
that's one thing,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
But when you try to do it to show up an opponent, if somebody's talking crap to you, and you give them a little flick or whatever,
Yeah,
okay, that's fine. You say I got you this time, or maybe
yeah.
that'll shut you up. Whatever, that's fine. Watch out for the next one being in your ear. Although I don't know if that's allowed anymore, but
Yeah.
it didn't matter, which sport it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think
Oh
that's
well.
I think we probably made our point. Anyway, the Martineaus are really cool, so go
Exactly.
follow.
Do it the
Uh,
right way. Follow them.
yeah, go follow Lily Martineau on Twitter and L7's baseball. Actually, I think
Yep.
Chad
They
just
just we
redid
just
the
hopped in. Yep.
yeah he just did the new Twitter for them. I think the old
Yep.
one had to go the way of the dodo bird, so
Gotcha.
and on them.
The
Good people doing things the right way.
Yep. Yep. And you know what? And if anyone's got something they could say how it's things are stacked against them and stuff like that, right? It'd be Lily and the crew, right? That
Yeah.
they have to push it uphill. You know what? They're nothing but gracious and nothing but positive all around, all the time. And I'm sure she hears stuff chirped at her all the time.
Yeah.
And she
So if
doesn't like the
actually we
tractor, and must say, and you know what? You can tell it rolls off her. Great grades, great on the field, and will be a great person. So
already is.
complete opposite. Yep.
Already is.
Yep.
Um, and for those who don't know, I mean, she's a girl that plays baseball. She plays in, high school level and travel. And, throughout all of Connecticut, according to Katie, her mom, there's probably, I think she said, one other girl that's playing in the whole state, but they didn't even run into her. And there's a
Oh,
few that play that they keep track of, but she's not in competition with anything except boys, and that's a difficult age to be doing it. Obviously, you start to
yep.
see some real, um, some real differences in the pace of play, and things like bat speed, ball speed in terms of balls that are coming at you from a pitching standpoint, from a fielding standpoint, and she's right in there because she's just outworking everybody, and she loves it. She really has a true love for the game. It's beautiful to see. It's beautiful, Dog. You'll get to meet her soon, and you'll see immediately, and the family, just excellent people. I think we did
Good.
enough about that. We
Cool.
did enough. We did enough on them. That's They'll be happy with that. They didn't need any. They didn't need any, but they got a lot.
There you go.
Dog, it's been good to get back on here with you. If people are just jumping in, the last couple of shows I gave the Dog a break. We did a Stanley Cup Finals preview and also a U.S. Open golf preview. That was Jess Myers, longtime hockey writer, and for the rinklive.com. And Mike Applebaum, who's now done the 3 golf previews with me and done an excellent job. So go check out those episodes if you haven't. They are on the Facebook group in terms of video. They're on YouTube in terms of the video. And they are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon, plus TalkShoe and everywhere else that you get the audio podcast. So check that out. Tell us what you think. Follow us on social media as well. Follow the podcast. Do the subscribe and alerts thing on whichever apps you're on because we need that. It helps. And if you have a friend that you think would be interested, get them to listen and subscribe too because that's how we grow it. That is going to wrap it up for Live at 5 on a Wednesday. For the Dog, Jeff Healy. This is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards is out.